Food security. In the pre-independent India, famine situations of extreme scarcity of food were common cause of a large-scale starvation deaths. The Bengal famine in 1943-45, for instance, took away about 3 to 5 million people's lives in and around Bengal, Assam and Odisha. There have been instances in Indian history where famines happened because food grain supply was not organized by the rulers. After India's independence, Indian governments, both central and states, evolved various to ensure food grains for its people. Increasing food grain production. Producing sufficient amounts of food grains is an important requirement for food security. In India, the government creates conditions so that farmers are able to produce increasing amount of food grains. The food grains production has grown over the period 1970-71 to 2016-17. Paddy production increased from about 40 million tons in 1970-71 to about 97 million tons in 2010-11. Another food crop that witnessed rapid increase in production during this 40-year period was wheat. Compared to paddy and wheat, the production of oilseeds did not increase during 1970-2011. In order to increase the per hectare yield of a crop, necessary inputs have to be provided in a judicious manner. One way is to expand irrigation but use water in a manner that is vital resource is shared and made available all. Crops with low yield indicated in this graph mostly grow in dry lands where the present and even future possibility of irrigation is minimal. Planting drought-resistant crops as per the local conditions, water harvesting and crop rotation are therefore used to raise production on a given piece of land. It is also important to ensure that soil and other natural resources are not damaged or depleted in the process. In fact, intensive and unscientific applications of cropping methods have led to soil degradation and depletion of groundwater resources. Availability of food grains. The first requirement for a country is to able to produce food grains for the whole of its population. There is a difference between production and availability of food grains. This is estimated as availability of food grains for the year equals to production of food grains during the year plus net imports minus change in stocks with the government. Information relating to production, imports and change in government stocks and per person availability of food grains are given in the following table for 3 years 1971, 1991 and 2011. Many believe coarse cereals to be inferior grains, but these are highly nutritious and wholesome grains. Today, many prefer to call these cereals nutri-cereals. Availability of other food items. Although there has been increase in production of other food items, it is not sufficient to meet the minimum dietary requirements. Nutritionists suggest that every person in India should eat 300 grams of vegetables and 100 grams of fruits in a day, whereas per person availability of these food materials is 180 and 58 grams respectively. Similarly, per person requirement of eggs is 180, whereas the availability of eggs is 30. The meat dietary requirements are 11 kilograms per year, whereas the per person availability is only 3.2 kilograms. We require 300 milliliters of milk, whereas the per person availability is 210 milliliters a day. The agricultural diversification may impact food grain production. Since resources are diverted to non-food grains uses, food grain production may come down. India's per capita availability is very low when we compare the same with countries in Europe and USA. Access to food. The next important aspect of food security is access to food. If we eat less or less nutritious food, the calorie intake of our body becomes less, and hence we may find it difficult to work or our health may get deteriorated. Calories intake per person in rural areas in India showing in this graph. A standard of 2100 kilocalories per day in urban areas and 2400 calories in rural areas is a recommended food intake per day. The national average calories levels in both rural and urban areas are below the needed calories requirements. Also, the consumption of calories has gone down between 1983 and 2004. The major reason for low calorie intake is the lack of purchasing power of the people. Public distribution system. Ration shops are important means for people to access food grains in India. This graph shows people's dependency on PDS for the purchase of their staple grains in different states of India. The Indian government came out with a new law in 2013 called the National Food Security Act to legalize people's right to food. It applies approximately two-thirds of the population of India. As per this law, every person of low-income families is entitled to 5 kilograms of food grains per month and subsidized rates. The poorest ones are entitled to 35 kilograms of food grains. For a few years, the central government will supply rice, wheat and millets for 3 rupees, 2 rupees and 1 rupee respectively. This law also envisages providing free cooked meals for pregnant women, lactating mothers, children aged 1 to 6 coming to Anganwadis, and midday meals for children aged 6 to 14 in schools. While Indian Parliament enacts various laws such as National Food Security Act and implements schemes such as Integrated Child Development Scheme. Nutrition status. Food is required by the body for all its functions, for energy, growth, and the capacity to remain healthy and fight illness. The food that we consume is normally classified as carbohydrates, proteins, vitamins, and minerals. Carbohydrates. The carbohydrates provide energy through wheat, rice, ragi, java, oils, sugar, fats, etc. Proteins that help growth and regeneration of body tissues through beans, dals, meat, eggs, rice, wheat, etc. Vitamins that provide protection and ensure the working of many vital systems of the body through foods such as fruits, leafy vegetables, sprouts, unpolished rice, etc. Minerals that are required in small quantities for many important functions such as iron for blood formation. This is provided through green leafy vegetables, ragi, etc. National Institute of Nutrition survey says that the overall prevalence of underweight was about 45% and it was significantly higher among 3 to 5 years compared to 1 to 3-year children. The nutrition status among adult men and women is measured using body mass index. No one would have a lower weight or height if he or she had access to adequate food.